Well, Shane, we're heading to week 7 now. We've hit that 3/4 of the way point as we've just finished week 6. We got playoff projections coming out. We had some really good games here this past week. You look at Orangeville, Aquin with that game going to overtime. River Ridge, Polo. You know, we got a lot of flack on that one.
Yeah.
Madison and Du-Pec. The one that we did not pick, a lot of people didn't pick, but
it was a winnable game, though.
It was.
You look at that, and after last year and everything, and, you know, Du-Pec probably circled that one on the schedule. Obviously, they wish they would have got their first win previous to that, but, I mean, that was a winnable game, and I'm glad they got it, though.
I am, too, because, like we stated, that definitely helps all the Northwest teams for playoff points. Another one that was really surprising was Galena and EPC at halftime, where EPC led just 14-7. And then even East Dubuque with Forreston, they had a very close first half before Forreston pulled away in the second half there.
Well, realistically, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but Forreston's played one solid game all year, and it came back against Dakota. To see them struggle against East Dubuque's not a bad opponent, so slow start, I'm not really surprised. And to be honest, we talked about it a little bit on camera and off camera. The Galena EPC score wasn't really surprising in half either. I mean, you had Forreston and Lena Winslow back-to-back. I mean, those are big games that you're coming off of. You're going to have a letdown, and Galena has improved since the beginning of the year, so it's not really a surprise.
Right, no, it's not, and they keep improving. And, I mean, you take a look at what Galena has as far as their remaining schedule, Forreston, Amboy, Du-Pec, they very well could get to that 4-win mark by the end of the season where we had them projected at the start of the year. So, I mean, you take a look around the state even as far as the Week 7 games, and there was not a lot that really took place, but some of the surprising ones were GCMS taking full control of Tri-Valley in their 42-0 win.
Yeah, hopefully they stay in 2A, but if you're EPC, you hope they go to 1A. I mean, bottom line is, whether it's 1A or 2A, they're going to be a tough out.
Well, and that's one of the things. You start looking at what the projections are and the breakdown of the numbers. Right now you have 56 teams that are left undefeated. We're already down to that many, which is not a lot. You take a look at all the 5 and 4 teams. We're down to 269 teams that are projected to be playoff eligible by the end of Week 9, meaning only 13 teams are going to be staying home come Selection Saturday. That's not a lot. So with that, we're going to see the playoff point total drop to that 35-36 range. Last week we stated 38, and then we started digging in and found it to be a little bit lower than that. 35-36, right now I'm guessing 36 is going to be the magic number. However, with that, you're going to see that cutoff also drop down. So right now, I mean, 1A is projecting at 298. It's very possible that it could stay at that 298, which is ironic because if you look at what the top 32 teams from last year were, that cutoff would have been 298 because Tuscola was the top team in 1A last year, and at 298 they would be this year as well. Another big game, though, was Aurora Christian as they lost to Class 5A, number 11 ranked Wheaton St. Francis, 28-20.
Very good. That's too close if you're a 1A fan.
Yeah, it is. And, I mean, even on the other side of the token, in Class 2A, Chicago Hope lost to Providence Catholic, 58-42, and Providence is ranked in Class 6A.
So here comes the Chicago teams coming on down the list here. You can have an opinion of it if you want, but bottom line is they're in that class.
They are. And I mean, here's the thing, though. Both those teams are starting to feel some injuries. They're getting hit with the injury bug. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, how everything falls. You know, one of the projections already shows EPC playing Chicago Hope second round. Should they both make it past their first round games.
You want no part of that.
No, not that early. But we'll get ready to get to our breakdown. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just click on the little button, hit the subscription, and then you'll be notified as soon as we get all of our videos up. Milledgeville at AFC. Shane, Milledgeville comes in perfect at 6-0, already in the playoffs with that number 6 win, while AFC comes in with an 0-6 record. Last week, Milledgeville beat Warren 46-6, while AFC lost to Stockton 52-0. And Shane, this is a game last year that Milledgeville won 26-0, which was kind of a surprise considering the talent difference between the two teams even last year. But I definitely think that this year, you know, Milledgeville's had a couple close games here that you wouldn't think would be so close. But at the same time, you know, last week we even stated out, you take 1 through 6, all of them can beat each other on any given week. It's just that Milledgeville has been above the rest in the bigger games. AFC really hasn't done a whole lot to stay in ball games this year.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this, to be honest with you. Milledgeville just got to show up and play the game. Don't overlook them. Should be a relatively easy contest for the Missiles. Unfortunately, that's the case for the Raiders.
Well, and you take a look at what Milledgeville has remaining on their schedule, too. You know, they got AFC now. Then they have River Ridge and Aquin. And we were just talking offset about, you know, the swings with River Ridge and Aquin.
Right.
You take a look at where Aquin was, they're on a downward trend. River Ridge is on an upward trend. You take a look at where they're at this year compared to last year, and basically Aquin's scoring about 20 points less, River Ridge scoring about 20 points more, so you got a pretty good wash right there, and they play each other this week.
Right. But, I mean, yeah, I don't see a reason why Milledgeville, I mean, if you're looking down the road here, Milledgeville's going to have a couple tests at the end of the year, but realistically, I don't know that they're going to be challenged that close.
Right.
So, but it all starts with this game, and, I mean, there's really not much to say about this game.
Well, right, and there's not, but what it does say for Milledgeville is if they can get 9-0, they're going to have the playoff points to get the number 1 seed, which is going to be critical and should definitely help advance them at least to the second round of the playoffs where they'll be hit with a tougher opponent, to say the least, but you expect that as you move forward.
Because, I mean, their crossover is Amboy, and Amboy could potentially get them another point against Galena in Week 8. Although Galena's playing better, that could be an interesting game in a couple weeks. So we'll see what happens there. But I like Milledgeville easily on the road here.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I do too. Stockton at Polo, both teams come in with a 4-2 record. Last week, Stockton beat AFC 52-0, as we already mentioned. Polo losing to River Ridge 6-0. Last year, this was a game that Stockton won 49-21. But Shane, this year, you know, Stockton is not at the caliber they were last year. Polo definitely is not at the caliber they were last year, but they are playing much bigger than what you would expect with what they have remaining as well.
Yeah, Polo kind of is. I don't know. They're winning games they shouldn't, and they're losing games. Or they're winning games they shouldn't, and they're losing games they shouldn't. I mean, so to speak, they shouldn't have beat Orangeville. You know, they had that game gift wrapped to them. Let's be honest here. And then they should have beat River Ridge based on who you talk to. But I mean, we picked that right. I mean, we thought River Ridge was going to win that game, but a lot of people thought Polo should have breezed through that. Which anybody that thought that clearly hasn't been paying attention this year.
Well, I mean, that's one of those things where we've talked about River Ridge a lot at the beginning of the year, and then
they kind of tapered off because they lost a couple that they probably shouldn't have.
Right. So, well, they laid the egg against Orangeville, which we had picked Orangeville to win that game.
Not that bad.
But then the Galena game was one that they definitely let get away from them. You take a look at Stockton. Stockton, they had a go-ahead touchdown in the end zone on a 4th and 3 play that bounced off the receiver's shoulder pads.
Right.
So, and then they eventually lost that, and then you come back with Polo, and you get the big win, which they needed to keep their playoff hopes alive. And right now, you take a look at Polo, and they're projected to get in at 5-4, and Stockton's projected to get in at 6-3. So if you look at projections, Stockton is pick to win this game.
Right, and Stockton better hope they win this game, because if they fall to 5-4, West Carroll's not really doing much to help them out, and South Beloit is doing nothing to help them out either. Stockton has to win this game.
Yes, this is definitely a must-win game for
Stockton.
Stockton.
I mean, I haven't done the projections like you or other people, but I would guess that I haven't looked at their playoff points, but they can't be that great.
No. Where are they at? I think they were at 24 points right now.
Right, so looking
they're
at
under that bubble.
Yeah,
you're looking at the 35.
Right, so, I mean, Stockton has to win this against Polo, and Polo's kind of been that team to kind of be the thorn in people's sides that they're not used to. I mean, go ask Orangeville about that. So, I mean, realistically, Stockton's got to win this, and, it all starts with Dvorak, like we've been saying for, what is this, week 7 weeks now.
It does. Obviously, Stockton is going to rely on a heavy case of Dvorak. I mean, they did get the pass game going a little bit here last week with Buskey throwing the ball, but it wasn't a whole lot. They haven't thrown the ball a whole lot.
Right.
Coach Snyder is about running the ball.
Yeah.
He has been since he's been here the last season and a half now. Polo, on the other hand, is they're going to run spread. They like to run that QB option type play where Soto gets the ball and he's either looking at a fake pitch, a quick pass out to the flats, or they'll just run a go route on you and chuck it deep. Yeah. But it's working for them because they have the athletes available to make those plays work.
Right. I mean, and another factor that you don't always consider is, their backs are. I'm sure Coach Snyder has reminded them that, hey, our backs are kind of against the wall. 4-2 looks nice, but we got to get to that 5th this week. So, I look for Stockton to come out with a little bit of an edge here, but Polo could too. I mean, they're coming off a loss that they are not happy about.
Well, and Stockton's got some big games ahead too. I mean, you got Polo right now, you got Aquin next week, Orangeville the week after.
Tough sledding.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, any one of those teams right there, 1 through 6, can beat them.
Right.
Beat each other in any given night, and you've seen it. I mean, Orangeville throttled River Ridge. Orangeville lost to Polo. River Ridge beat Polo.
Yeah.
River Ridge barely lost to Stockton. The only team that really stands out, like we said, was Milledgeville, and that's because they throttled Stockton.
Right. And we know what people did that. But I like Stockton on the road.
I like the Blackhawks as well. Orangeville at Toledo-Cumberland brings us another matchup in Week 7 that is going to be a key matchup as far as playoff position is concerned. Orangeville comes in with a 4-2 mark. Cumberland comes in with a 5-1 mark. And Shane, last week, Orangeville beat Aquin in overtime 26-20, while Cumberland beat Martinsville 41-6. And this is the first time these two teams have ever met, so it's going to be very interesting to see what Orangeville can do when they go to take on Cumberland on Saturday.
Right. And we were talking a little bit before this. It's a long haul down there. Orangeville's going to travel down the night before. That'll help out a lot because you don't want to be going south to Champaign on a Saturday morning for a Saturday afternoon game. But, they don't play in a good conference, even though a lot of people over the years have kind of thought that, the Oka has been the class of the 1A, but and I mean, they used to have a lot of good schools in the conference, so I think they realigned everything, though, didn't they?
Yes.
So that's kind of taking care of itself. But, sitting at 5-1, realistically, their schedule has been about that of Madison's, so to speak. Maybe not quite as bad, but a winnable game for Orangeville here.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at Cumberland, and, I mean, right now they're sitting at 22 playoff points.
Pathetic. Which
is bad for being a 5-1 mark. They've played one team with a winning record, which was Arcola. Their only loss on the year, by the way.
By 20 points.
Yes. And then you look at what they want to do, and, I mean, Coach Big Pete at Deep Dish Football has highlighted their quarterback over and over and over, and they throw the ball, they throw the ball, they throw the ball. My question is, what are they going to do against a power team, which Orangeville is trying to become, and they're doing a very good job of it this year?
Well, that's just it. If it's working up here, it's going to work down there. Not trying to be a bully, but we've seen that year in and year out.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, those are one of the keys. I mean, Obviously, if Cumberland's throwing the ball around, they're going to probably be running in a shotgun spread formation. So Orangeville's going to have some things that they're going to have to do in order to set up their defense a little bit differently, but it's not much different than when they're playing Aquin, who they just got done playing.
That helps a lot.
It does. So obviously they're going to be able to do that same type of game preparation as they had last week. But this guy, this kid, I can't remember his name, but he can definitely air the ball out. I mean, I have watched some film on him, so he can throw the ball. He's pretty accurate, but I wouldn't say he's at the Hayden Fox level by any stretch of the imagination. Wow. But it'll be a good test for Orangeville.
Yeah, and to move forward a little bit, Orangeville's in that stretch of tough competition right now. They had Milledgeville, they had Aquin, they got these guys. And then they finish out with East Dubuque, who's on the other side of the conference and not playing bad, so that's going to be a challenge. And then, they finish up with Stockton. So, like Stockton here, they got to get a win this week to get to 5.
Yes, and they do. They definitely need to get this win. I mean, they get to 5, they're in. They're going to have the playoff points. But, right now, you look at projections, and they're projected to beat East Dubuque, and both me and you agree that is not a game.
Not sold on that.
No.
At all.
Not me either. I mean, can I see Orangeville winning that game?
Right.
Yes.
But
it's going to be a lot closer. Right. And East Dubuque is, even though they're sitting at 2-4, they have a schedule that can favor them to a 5-4 mark, and they could even sneak in the playoffs.
I mean, East Dubuque, looking forward for Orangeville here. East Dubuque's played good with the big boys, except for Galena Winslow to this point. I mean, they didn't get blown out against CPC. I mean, 4 scores, but that was not that bad of a game.
Right.
And, they hung with Forreston, and they gave Dakota all they could handle. I mean, East Dubuque's not a bad ball club.
No.
So it's important Orangeville goes and takes care of business.
Yes.
And I like them on the road here.
I do too. I think the Broncos are going to go down there. They're going to take care of the Pirates rather convincingly and come away with that 5-2 mark and become playoff eligible this week. Our crossover matchup takes us to Warren Shane, where Lena Winslow and Warren will play their game this year, at least as what we know of right now. Nothing has been put in place as far as Warren not playing this game.
They canceled a lot earlier than this last year. So.
Yes. So, and the only reason why I bring that up is because people have already asked that this week.
Right. We're not trying to be mean about it.
No. Lena Winslow comes in with the 5-1 mark. Warren comes in with an 0-6 mark. Last week, Lena Winslow beat Amboy 72-37, while Warren lost to Milledgeville 46-6. The last time these two teams met was back in 2010 in Week 9, where Lena Winslow won 42-0 en route to their state championship run. Shane, Lena Winslow's coming off their state championship run from just a year ago, and now they are set to play Warren here in Week 7. Not stating that Lena Winslow will go on a state championship run this year, because right now they are not playing like a team that is going to win state. However, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, they are still the best team with the option from the NUIC to make state Class 1A.
Well, they're the best team in the NUIC. I don't care if they lost to EPC or not. They're the best team in the NUIC. And I made comments. Lena Winslow's basically walked through this schedule at this point. I'm sorry that I have to do this on the game with Warren, but that game warrants no talking as far as I'm concerned. Lena Winslow big is my pick, so I'm going to go off on a little different direction here. Lena Winslow needs to start playing better. They got Warren, and then they got Du-Pec, and then they finish with Dakota. If they don't put up 250 points between those 3 games, there's a problem. Realistically, I know, do the math on that, that's a lot. But that's what they're capable of, and that's what they should be doing. And to this point, they really haven't. I don't care if your second team is in or not, you don't give up 37 points to Amboy. I don't care who you are. That does not happen.
Right.
A state championship team does not give up 37 points like that. Period.
You're saying 250. I say 150. They should at least be getting 50-point wins over the next 3 weeks, including this one. However, I agree with you. They are not playing the way that they should be.
No.
in order to get where they need to be. And it's sad to see it because where is that want to? Where is that drive?
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to be the state champs. It's another to be the team that lost that at the same time. And right now they're on that path that they're going to lose it because, I'll be honest, right now projections say they're going to beat Dakota in week 9. We both agree that's going to happen. Then they're going to turn around and play Dakota again in round 1 of the playoffs. Not saying Dakota can win, but we both have seen times in the past where teams that shouldn't win have come back to win.
Well, and I'll say this. There's a reason why they lost that game to EPC. And I mean, EPC was fired up and all that, but when you get down to the X's and O's, and EPC is able to run and they're able to throw, and they got a good run defense. That's the perfect storm to beat Lena Winslow because their pass defense is like Swiss cheese. There's holes all over the field. Their defense front 4 stops run, but they have no pressure on the quarterback in the passing game. And if your run game is stopped, I mean, that's Lena Winslow's bread and butter. They got to get going.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to get the offensive and defensive
I'm not trying to
going.
be mean or anything, but I'm not impressed in the least.
No, and nobody is. Nobody is right now because, like you said, they just gave up 37 points to Amboy. I mean, congrats to Amboy for doing that. And like you stated, I mean, yeah, it was 59-17 at half. But those points that Amboy put up were not BS points either. I mean, it was a close game there for a while in the first half until Lena Winslow finally pulled it away.
Right.
And then, yeah, maybe in the second half they gave up some more points with their second team in.
I like them against Warren, though. I mean, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no reason why Lena Winslow shouldn't finish out the season 8-1.
If Warren beats Lena Winslow, I'll never do this again.
But, yes, I like the Panthers as well. We're moving to the northwest side of things here where we have East Dubuque at Du-Pec. And you look at the game and you could sit here and say it's a laugher. But it's not going to be a laugher. This is going to be a critical point for either one of these teams, more so for East Dubuque than for Du-Pec.
Yeah.
But it's a big game for Du-Pec in their own right as well, as this gives them an opportunity to keep building on what they just got last week, which was win number 1 on the year. East Dubuque comes in with a 2-4 mark after they lost to Forreston 44-12, while Du-Pec comes in with that 1-5 mark after they upset a supposed 1A title contender in Madison. 10-0.
Jesus.
Can you believe that?
I'm sorry, that was the most painful game I've ever been to in my life.
It was.
Obviously, I've
pretty
been watching,
sloppy. I mean,
I've been watching football
contest.
a long time. I can probably count on one hand the times I've seen a safety, and we were blessed with 2 of them. Madison's got athletes, but the whole chuck it and run is not going to get it done. Their quarterback's a hell of a player. He's a freshman.
Lack of discipline.
Yeah.
Lack of organization. There was no coaching, play calling.
I'm going to be honest with you. I was happy to get out of there alive.
Well, after the many threats that we heard. Good Lord, they even had to call the police in at the end of the game. They both sat on the other sideline.
So I was happy to get out of there alive. And Du-Pec, I don't know.
For all 10 fans that came up.
I still wasn't impressed with Du-Pec's play. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being critical.
No, there's many times where I could count 3 or 4 of them. I know 3 for sure, where Du-Pec had drives that were going that would have resulted in touchdowns had they kept going.
Right.
But they fumbled the ball away.
Yeah.
I mean, turnovers cost Du-Pec from an even larger amount of victory.
There was 4 joint turnovers in the first half or something like that. I don't even know. That's realistically how close I was paying attention to that while doing stats.
Yeah.
Even.
I mean,
it was a bad game. Not to shift gears on you here, but East Dubuque here in this matchup. I haven't seen any projections that puts East Dubuque in the playoffs yet, and I think that's a problem.
There's not.
Because realistically here, if they play up to their caliber, they shouldn't lose the rest of the season.
No, I mean, you take a look, okay, they got Du-Pec, and if you look at the bottom half of the schedule, East Dubuque's already beat Amboy, they've already beat Galena.
They got West Carroll.
Amboy beat West Carroll, and, you know.
Orangeville is going to be that toss-up game.
Right. So, I mean,
5-4 gets them in. Cause
out of the bottom half, East Dubuque is the best team out of that bottom half.
Oh, not even close.
I mean, the only thing I could say is, I mean, West Carroll's down here at number 8. And they're the most physical out of the 5 of them.
And I haven't looked at the projections that close. They must have Orangeville beating East Dubuque.
Yes.
Is that what the game is?
They got Orangeville beating East Dubuque. I'm
not sold on that.
Assuming with their seed, though, that they have Orangeville losing to Cumberland, which I'm not sold on that.
Bottom line is these week 7 projections are garbage. I mean, people were getting offended about that Dakota-Galena 2 weeks in a row, and I'd say that's probably a 95 to 5% chance that that's not going to happen at this point.
Well, the 4 seed for Lena Winslow is definitely going to be there. That's where they're going to be. Unless Marquette, Milledgeville, or Princeville get upset.
But if you move in East Dubuque, that's going to drop that cutoff even more. It's going to send Tuscola out.
It would test. Yes, if East Dubuque can squeak in, Tuscola goes out.
Which, I mean, people are going to love.
Which people down south will love, too.
Right. But, and that's going to reseed everything in the north. I mean, that's going to throw things off.
It will.
So, I mean, realistically, but, you know, I'm taking it for you here, throwing pens, but there's no reason East Dubuque shouldn't go to Du-Pec and take care of business here.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, East Dubuque is on their playoff bubble right now. So, they got to win out.
Play like it.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
Let's see what you got before basketball season hits, because most of you are seniors, and this is your chance to shine. I like the Warriors as well. EPC at West Carroll Shane last year. This was our game of the week.
Last year.
And, man, was there some fireworks in this one, as there was the little brawl, per se, at the beginning of the game when EPC rushed West Carroll after West Carroll took the field, jumping around on the 50-yard line. Anyway.
There's no love lost there.
No love lost, no. And there won't be any love lost here, as this is quickly becoming a rivalry game. However, this year it sets a different tone to the picture as EPC comes in with a 6-0 mark. West Carroll comes in with a 2-4 mark. Last week, EPC beat Galena 34-7 as they're en route to a 9-0 record with one tough game left after this one. And West Carroll lost to Dakota 34-12. Last year, West Carroll did win this game 26-7, which helped catapult them to a first-round win before they lost to GCMS, who took care of EPC in the first round at the same time.
Right. So, I mean, you got a lot of moving parts there last year. And this year, I mean, West Carroll, Lyson's done a great job. I mean, he's built a program. Things were going where they wanted to. Last year, heck of a ball game, given the 2A champ all they could handle. This year, the talent's just not there. And, you know, this is an EPC team that is the same virtual team as last year.
It is. I mean, and I wouldn't necessarily say that West Carroll doesn't have the talent there. They do have talent. The problem is they just don't have the size like they had last year.
The line plays.
Like, I compare West Carroll right now to how they were in 2015 and 16. 2015 they were good. They made the playoffs. 2016 they kind of underperformed. Didn't make the playoffs, and then they came back in 2017 with what they did. This year they're down a little bit. Next year I expect them to be back up, especially with the change in the conference alignment.
Yeah, that should help them out a lot.
Because they do have athletes. They have... and to be honest, I mean, they're not big, but I tell you what, they are physical. I mean, they out-physicaled Dakota despite that loss. Dakota just had more horses in the race than what West Carroll did, and that's how they won it. But as far as how they play the game, I love the way they play the game. And I love what Coach Lightson's doing with the Thunder as well. Like you said, he's built the program from basically nothing. I mean, you bring Mount Carroll, Thompson, and Savannah together to create a school, and where was the winning programs at in any of those institutions when they had football?
Well, and not to mention, I mean, West Carroll had very good fresh soft teams before he arrived. I mean, they had some 9-0 seasons. it just never made it to the varsity level.
Well, that's just it. I mean,
It's
take a
gotta
look
get there.
at past coaching there, and that's where he is taking West Carroll now.
Yeah.
He's definitely building on that. As far as EPC, like you said, they got a lot of horses in the stable. I mean, you got the Smart Jessies, you got the Kemples. Addison Keltner has actually impressed me this year, with his line play. Eli Dirtz is still there doing things. You got Wyatt Hammer doing stuff. I mean, collectively, as a unit, they are making things work. The only problem is they come out flat last week against a Galena team that I felt that they should have routed, considering that they came off of big games. Not just big games, but huge rivalry games on the road, both in Forreston and in Galena. You come home, you have homecoming, you have Galena, and then you lay a first half egg.
Well, homecoming week is hard anyway.
It is.
Coaches aren't really a fan of that, and I don't blame them. A lot of weird things can happen. Kids can get injured playing volleyball or whatever the hell they do.
Jumping off of floats, whoever, whatever.
The fact that they came out flat doesn't surprise me. I look for them to come out with a little more energy against West Carroll, though, because they do have a big Week 8 game that looms.
They do, because, I mean, there again, you look at EPC moving forward, they got Dakota in Week 8.
And those are two teams that virtually have the same team as last year, and they lost 21-7 last year, I think, on the road. So that should be a close game. I like EPC on the road against West Carroll.
I do. I like EPC in this matchup. I just think they got too much for the Thunder this year. Galena at Forreston. Shane. Galena comes in with the 2-4 mark. Forreston comes in with the 4-2 mark. Last week, Galena lost to EPC, as we already mentioned, 34-7, where Forreston beat East Dubuque 44-12. Last year, this game, Forreston won 48-7. I don't see that kind of score taking place this time around. However, Galena is still going to have fits trying to slow down the Forreston run game. I can definitely see that happening in this game.
Right. Nah. This used to be a game that, there was a lot of years there, it seems like. Maybe I'm wrong, but this was like the first game of the year.
Yeah, here just a few years back, yeah.
And that was always a game, kind of a flip the quarter type game. Galena had some good teams. Forreston was always good. Boy, how the things have changed over the years.
2015.
Yeah, we're getting to be 4 years away from that now.
Just about.
16, 17, 18. Yeah. Forreston won big last year. Like you said, I don't see it being that bad this year, but it could be close for a while because the way Forreston's come out here lately and basically all year but one game.
Right. And like we stated at the beginning of the year, we expected Galena to win more games this year.
Right.
I'm not expecting Galena to win this game, but they've definitely shown that they've improved. They're still not where I would like to see them at, because I think they have a lot of potential moving forward.
Right.
Like next year, I definitely would expect to see them become more of a playoff type team, at least to get back into the playoff picture. But what Galena can do is, one, they can throw the ball. And they can throw it fairly effectively at times. Henry Anderson's the quarterback. He has been sporadic at times as well.
Yeah.
He's got quite a few interceptions on the year, trying to force passes in the spots that he probably shouldn't be doing. But that is the competitive nature that I see in him. He's one of those types of players that, I can get that. Kind of like Brett Favre, I can get that, and it doesn't happen.
Right. You love to have that on your team. And to touch on this, because we have to, because it isn't official yet, they technically still are alive in the playoff hunt at 2-4. If they can squeak out a win against Forreston some way, somehow, schedule improves drastically. I think they have Amboy and Du-Pec left.
Yes, that's correct.
So, here's your season right here.
It is. So this has got to be a dogfight game. And if you remember 2 years ago, there was a Dakota team that went up to Galena that should have drilled a Galena team and came out with a 2-point win.
Right. And that was a pretty good team.
Yeah. This Galena team,
yeah, you never know.
It could happen.
It could.
Especially if they can get consistent running and passing going between having Peyton Bauer in the backfield running the ball, and then if they can get some slants going with Connor Einsweiler and Kieran Duplessis or whoever Anderson wants to hit on those given throws. But if they can get that stuff going, I mean, Galena could make this a very interesting matchup, more so than what we project it to be.
Right. You never know what happens, but contrary to everything we just said, I still like Forreston at home. I don't think Forreston's going to overlook them because they themselves want to get to that 5-win mark. I mean, they're going to get there, let's be honest here, with their remaining schedule. I mean, they might have a tough game against Orangeville. I don't know what that's going to – they're not Orangeville. West Carroll next week, my bad.
Yes.
And then they finish with Amboy, so we'll see what happens. But I like Forreston at home.
I do like Forreston at home, but like you stated,
it's there.
Galena's here. They're not out of the playoff picture yet. They got to get it going. This is the game they got to get it done in. If they don't, then they can kiss the playoffs goodbye. But the Cardinals at home is my pick. River Ridge at Aquin is our Upstate game of the week. Once again, we got Aquin in our Upstate game of the week.
Surprise.
Seems like a lot.
Surprise, surprise.
Both teams come in with a 3-3 mark as River Ridge beat Polo last week 6-0, while Aquin lost to Orangeville in overtime 26-20 for their third straight loss after their 3-0 start. Last year, Aquin won this game 40-20, but now we change hats. River Ridge this year has the more skilled players coming back. Aquin has a lot of skilled players as well, just on a little bit younger line. This is a very intriguing matchup, Shane, as we discussed it in our opening, where River Ridge is trending upward, Aquin is trending downward. You take a look at point totals between last year and this year, and it's basically a push right here, which makes it very much a game of the week type game, even more so because playoff hopes are on the line here.
For both teams.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, sorry here. Aquin definitely needs to win. River Ridge definitely needs to win. I mean, we talked about this. Aquin had to get out. What was that? We thought they had to get out to that 4-0 start.
Yes.
And they lost the game against Polo. And week 4, we're already talking, well, Aquin's not making the playoffs. Not much has changed there because they went on to lose 3. I mean, you had Polo, you had Forreston, and then they lost last week at Orangeville. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes big time. Because, I mean, you still got Milledgeville, you got Stockton, you got River Ridge here. It's not impossible to see Aquin go 3-6 here, and it's not impossible to see them go 4-5, but I will tell you what is impossible, and I'll say this, they will not go 5-4.
Bold. Very bold. I take a look at, Stockton, Milledgeville. I mean, I don't see where Aquin is going to beat Milledgeville.
Right.
Stockton, I can definitely see as that is
flip a coin.
And it's long been a rivalry game, and in rivalry games, you throw stuff out the window because it doesn't matter.
That's probably a home game, right, for Aquin? Yeah, that's at Aquin. So, hey, they might make a liar out of me.
But at the same case, like you stated, I mean, at the beginning of the year, I projected, and I remember stating that I had Aquin going 4-5.
And I had him at 3-6.
You had him at 3-6. The Polo loss threw it off for me because I was not expecting Polo to be where they're at. And that's kudos to Polo. I mean, they've played a hell of a season with what they have available as far as talent and players and everything else. I mean, they're really up against it.
Yep.
They've had some injuries already this year, but they're fighting and they're doing exactly everything that you would expect them to do. But, I had Aquin going 4-0 and then losing the next 5. Well, they're in that stretch.
And I had them winning the first 3 and losing the next 6. Realistically, that's where we are, though, here.
Yeah.
And, on the flip side, though, River Ridge, I mean, they're coming off a big win against Polo. We are probably the only 2 people in Northern Illinois who picked that game.
No, there's a couple others. Not many.
Not many.
No.
You get my point here.
Yes.
River Ridge is heading in the right direction, though.
They are. And they have been all season.
Right. You still got Aquin, you got Milledgeville, and you got Hoopston. I would say that Hoopston is probably a winnable game. Milledgeville will find out, and Aquin will find out. So, I mean, they got to have it, too.
And we kind of put River Ridge on the back burner there for a little bit because after they lost to Galena in week 3, we said that was a game that they needed to have because heading into week 5 with Stockton, they needed to be at 3-1.
Right, and they almost took that game though.
They did. Stockton. They almost took it against Stockton. They did not, but they did bounce back and they got it against Polo. So now they're here at 3-3, which is actually the most wins they've had since the 2013 season.
A while.
Which their best record was the 2013 year when they went 4-5. That's been their best season in program history. So they're teetering right there on that line right now.
Right.
But in order for them to make the playoffs, because you take a look at their schedule, they got Aquin, Milledgeville, and Hoopston. I can see them being Hoopston. Because you take a look at Hoopston's schedule. Right now, they're 2-4. Their 2 wins are against winless Iroquois West and winless Westville.
And close game against Westville.
Yeah. The game against Westville is close. But Westville lost everybody off their quarterfinal team from a year ago. You take a look at their remaining schedule. They're going to lose to Salt Fork. They're going to lose to Dwight. So they're going to be 2-6 when they head to Ottawa to take on River Ridge in week 9. And that's going to be a big game. That's going to be a must-win for River Ridge there. Milledgeville in week 8, I don't see River Ridge winning that game.
No, but if River Ridge can pull us off against Aquin, that game against Hoopston is going to be everything. And Galena's giving you more points. I mean, what's River Ridge's chances at 5-4?
Well, that's just it.
Getting in.
That's exactly where I had River Ridge at the beginning of the year, and it was winning that week 9 matchup with Hoopston to get in.
Realistically speaking, to me, Aquin's eliminated right now. River Ridge is still alive, based on this, right here in time. At the end of the night Friday, if Aquin wins, we have 2 teams that will be eliminated from the playoffs.
Well, and if you look at projections, there again, Aquin and River Ridge are not showing up in projections.
Right. Something's going on there.
Right. So this is their chance for both teams to totally turn these projections upside down. And it starts right here in week 7.
Yep. And I tell you what, we've talked about them all year long. And we took them last week, and that Aquin's just a really tough place to play. And Aquin generally has a way of winning games there. Home field advantage is huge to Aquin. It's just the way it goes. So I mean, this is just a really tough game for River Ridge. But I'm going to take them on the road.
Well, and it's
because I told you before we came on here, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take Aquin. You know what? I'm going to take River Ridge because we've laid everything out here.
You did. And, here's where I take it, okay? Gustafson is a hell of a player. There's no doubt about it.
Just wait.
Lucky we get to watch him for another 2 years
just
after
wait.
this. So I'm happy for that. But right now he is the weapon that Aquin has. Without him, they don't have a lot. Right. They're not getting a lot of contributions. Ethan Yount's doing a good job running the ball. There's no doubt about that. Him and Gustafson are the 2 leading rushers for the Bulldogs. The problem I have is Yount hasn't showed up against the bigger competition teams. And that's where Aquin needs him to show up. in order for them to get the complimentary games and gains outside of just Gustafson. You know, I've seen Aquin enough to where you can just see it, okay? You got to contain Gustafson. You got to keep him in the pocket and force him to throw because he gets uncomfortable and he doesn't get a lot of protection.
Yeah.
At least not long enough to sit in the pocket. He's dangerous when he gets on the run. River Ridge needs to contain that. If they cannot, Aquin's going to win. But the way River Ridge played against Stockton, the way they played against Polo, I like where River Ridge is trending. I'm taking the Wildcats. Our Northwest game of the week takes us back to Dakota, where they will play host to Amboy. Amboy comes in with a 2-4 mark. Dakota comes in with a 5-1 mark. Yes, you can laugh. It's our game of the week. Why? Because there are big things on the table here for both Amboy and Dakota in this matchup regarding playoffs and playoff potential and opportunities.
Yeah, you said it. Both are still alive. Dakota's obviously sitting pretty good here. Got a couple tough matchups ahead with EPC, Leo Winslow. We'll get to that in a minute. But Amboy is still, Amboy is sitting at 2-4. Galena, Forreston, Dakota. That's a tough sled.
It is.
Very, very tough sled. But the way Amboy has played a couple games this year, they could get it if they want to. But the question is, what Amboy team is going to show up? Is the Amboy team going to show up against EPC that forced all those penalties, or is the Amboy team going to show up that showed up against who was it? East Dubuque,
right?
So I mean,
or West Carroll,
right, and the Dakota team, who's going to show up? The team that got throttled by Forreston, or their regular selves.
Well, what's their regular self? Because
we're waiting.
I think me and you are on different pages on where Dakota's at right now.
It's hard to gauge because the one good team that they've played, they've got throttled by. You can beat AFC and Galena and all those teams the way you want. They still have some glaring issues. I'll let you know after week 8. Because realistically, going forward, I expect them to play that close, and then I expect them to get totally shellacked against Lena Winslow, kind of like last year.
Well, and that's, I've only watched Dakota play once.
Right.
But it is all I needed to see to make my determination on how I feel about them. Which is the same thing I've been saying all year long. Dakota is not a physical ball team. They're not what Coach Free wants them to be. I think a couple of them are getting a little bit carried away in the head with their egos because they're 5-1. Let me tell you what, 5-1 means nothing. Because if you lose to Amboy, you're going to get beat by EPC and you're going to lose to Lena Winslow. Guess what? 5-4? You might not even make the playoffs because right now you're projected around 35 playoff points. And that's if...
No, they'll pick one up. Because the loss to Amboy will give them another point. Don't forget that.
Well, yes. True.
That's a worst case scenario for them.
It is worst case. But it's out there because AFC is not going to beat Warren.
No, AFC might not win another game until I die.
Well,
the way that's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that might be tomorrow. That might be 10 years from now. We'll find out.
Well, let's not hope for tomorrow. But I just... You've seen it. I'm sorry, but Dakota's pass defense is not good at all. In fact, I feel like they play soft on the edges. They're not attacking the ball on the run. It's something that we've seen with Coach Free's defense the last few years where they were very good at setting the edge. This team is terrible at setting the edge.
And I mean, they don't play their corners in on run defense. That's not what they do anymore for whatever reason. They do what they like, I guess. But yeah, it's gotta. You gotta take care of Amboy here. You're in a world of hurt.
I mean,
Amboy's a strike quick team.
They are a strike quick team.
Let's not forget that.
And I mean, the last couple of years they've struggled passing the ball and they were stuck running the ball. But this year they can throw the ball.
But I have noticed if you get them down quick and a lot, they tend to fold a little bit. Kind of. Well, I mean that's what Dakota does when they're down big. So I mean,
you got a recipe for disaster here.
Right. I mean,
I'm telling you, this game's going to be a lot like West Carroll last week. It's going to be close through the first half. And if Dakota can get things going like they should, then they'll pull away late. If you let a team like Amboy hang around too long, that's when upset city starts to happen. I mean, just 2 years ago, Dakota went down there. When Amboy first came in, they pulled out an 18-point victory.
It was closer than it should have been, though.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Dakota just has not played. Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, they're a powerhouse. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, they're up there in the upper tier. They're not a powerhouse. They're definitely not what we expected them to be this year. They're not physical enough to be where they're at right now.
Right.
And that's going to show forth as we move on because Forreston's going to then leapfrog them later on down the road. And they're looking to be the fourth best team in the Northwest.
Which is probably still good enough to win the Upstate.
Well, it very well could be. That's a whole nother story. Right. But, truth, I mean, this game's huge for Amboy. Like you said, chances of them getting into the playoffs with their schedule. Can they beat Galena? Yes. Is it going to be a tough game? Yes. Can they stop Forreston? Probably not, because Forreston is still stronger than what people think. They still have the power run team, and Amboy does not want to get hit.
Yeah. I don't see it. I mean, all things considered, close game for a while, breaking it open. I like Dakota at home.
You know, I would like to see Dakota just physically punish somebody and not run out of bounds.
That would go a long way towards next week. I mean, you're stuck. Like, I don't believe in calling kids out because that's not what we do here. But some of them could get a little more physical than what they've played.
Well, that's just it. I mean, when your star running back is not running through somebody that he should be,
lower your shoulder and hit somebody. Come on.
Get the extra yards. Get after it. You know?
Yeah.
Watch game clippets of Barry Sanders and Walter Payton and Earl Campbell and those guys, man. Those guys
Jake Apple.
were looking to go for extra yards.
We're your own, look at your own school's running backs over the years. Be a good place to start.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to be able to juke and jive, but at some point you got to lower the shoulder and lay the boom. And that needs to happen. I mean, if Dakota can't do it, they can win this one. They'll go 6-3, but then they're going to go loss, and be one and done. But I like Dakota in this game. All right, so our players of the week, Shane, last week we had some key performers really stand out, and the first one is Sean Ormiston and Lena Winslow. So honestly, it's a surprise that he made it this long. That he's had games in the past that we definitely have considered him to be a player of the week. We just went a different direction at those times.
Well, both of these guys, realistically. I mean, going into the season, you thought that these two probably would have carried the awards away all year, and that's not been the case. More so the first one has had more opportunities than the second.
Correct.
Ormiston's had a great year. But, I mean, when Isaiah Bruce is getting 200 on 6 carries or whatever, I mean, that's just what you're running into.
Right. Well, and Ormiston got 183 on 9 carries, had 6 total touchdowns.
So you're right in that ballpark. So
as they beat Amboy 72-37.
Yeah.
And then on the other one was Trey Engelbrecht. Finished the night with 18 carries, 167 yards, and 3 touchdowns in their win over West Carroll. And really carried the load there in the second half. Right. I mean, early on it was Cassie. In the second half, Engelbrecht came on, punched in the tickets for the 3 scores to give Dakota the bigger margin of victory in that game.
Yeah.
which was a 34-12 win with West Carroll.
Just a great effort by both those men this week. Keep it moving forward.
Yeah. So stop into Coach's to receive your T-shirt, your medallions, and your your pizza voucher. Sorry.
Yes.
Gosh.
Pizza voucher, T-shirt, and medallion.
There you go. Stop in at Coach's to get that. Thanks to Hometown Trophies and Coach's for their sponsorship on our Player of the Weeks as well. Should be a great week for ball games this week. We got some good ones set up as we highlighted. Some key matchups for sure that can definitely play a lot into the playoff picture. Obviously, we've got a lot of 2 and 4 teams sitting right here, some with some realistic chances to still make a playoff run. Some of them are grasping on hope and strings and everything else, but they're not out of it yet.
No. Should be a good week of ball games. The games of the week should be pretty good. One for sure, hopefully. Both. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a good week.
It should be. So get out to the games. It's going to be another fine, fantastic Friday, unless you're Orangeville playing on Saturday. Make the safe trip down to Toledo. But, as always, root for the NUIC.